Hi folks, here is going to be your tutorial where we take a part you created in Fusion and we export the face of that part so we can cut it on the shopbot. So to do that here in Fusion, this is the part we're going to transfer over to VCarve and set up a toolpath. Oh, it's all done. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a sketch and you're going to click on the surface that you want to export. You're going to hit P on your keyboard, which is going to bring up the project geometry, and you're going to click on that surface. You're going to hit OK. Once that happens, you can see here that everything is kind of highlighted in that purple color, like all of the geometric edges. You're going to go ahead and finish the sketch. And then on the left-hand side where the browser is, whatever part you're in, you want to find that sketch. In this case, it's called Sketch 4. It's the last thing I did here in the timeline. We're going to right-click at that, and we're going to select Save as DXF. So when we save to DXF, you can just call this, like whatever it is. This could be your side plate, that kind of deal. You're going to hit OK. At that point, you're going to go ahead and search down here below for VCarve, and you're going to open up the VCarve Pro ShopBot Edition. So you're going to click on that, and you're going to go ahead and let that open and continue to follow the video to create the cam path. On that, we're going to let this open, and then under Create New File, we're going to click that, and now we're going to have to set up our job. So hopefully, through talking to your teacher, you kind of got an idea that your piece that you're cutting out of should be a little bit larger than what you're trying to cut out. So for me, I'm just going to leave this at 24 by 24 inches. Yours might be a little bit different sized. If you're setting this job up, might not be a bad idea to kind of talk to your teacher about that to make sure that your X and Y coordinates are correct, because that is going to change how the shopbot will cut as well. So again, these should be a little bit bigger. This should be the size of the wood that you want to cut your piece out of. Then for thickness, most people, you're probably buying 1/4 inch wood, or I should say a 3/4 inch wood, or maybe 1/2 inch wood. You want to make sure that's 0.75. Now, down for Z position, you can leave it as material surface. You can go machine bed, but make sure whatever you choose, you remember and you tell your teacher that. We need to get where the Z is located. I'm just going to go material surface right now. And then you can leave the job type as single-sided. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, this is the piece that I'm going to be placing down on the shopbot. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some guidelines so I can have some places to put some screws down on this piece. So I know this is 24 inches wide. So I am going to click over here, and I'm going to grab click and hold, and you actually grab a guideline. And I'm going to move my guideline to about 1 inch over from each edge. So if this is 24, I want this to be 23. This is 24, so 23, and this will be 1 inch down here. So now what I can do is I can use this area right here to put some screws down in my piece, and then my bit will make sure my bit does not hit those screws, so it keeps it safe. Next, I'm going to go to File, Import Vectors, and this is going to be that DXF that we created. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Open, and you can see here it kind of drops it right there. Well, we want to get that somewhere in our piece. So on the left-hand side, under Transform Objects, we are going to click Move. And if you move your cursor over one of the lines, you can see it kind of turns to the 4-way arrow. I'm just going to click and kind of drag that out. If you got other pieces you need to cut, you can arrange them around here as well. But I'm going to bring this into position, and now it's within my guidelines. Great. So I'm going to close out of that. And now what I'm going to do is actually start to create my toolpaths. So on the right-hand side, it's probably hiding right now, but there should be a little tab that's called Toolpaths. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm just going to pin this so this stays up and doesn't auto-hide. And now I want to think, okay, what do I want to do first? Well, I want to cut everything inside first, and then the last thing I want to do is to cut this piece out. So we'll start with this hole. All right, I'm going to click on this little hole. And now this hole is somewhere around 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. We don't want to go too much smaller. I mean, you can go 1/4 inch, but the bit that we're going to be using is a 1/4 inch. So we're not going to really go any smaller than that. If you have a smaller hole than that, you might want to think about getting a different rod that might go through there. So I'm just going to click on this hole, and you can see here that it turns purple. And on the right-hand side, I just want to cut that whole thing out and not leave any material. So under my two-path operations, I am going to click Pocket Toolpath. Now, my start depth, I want it to be at 0 because I want it to start at the top of the material. And then the thickness of my material is 0.75. Now, this could change depending on the thickness of your material. So I could say I want to cut down to 0.75, but what's going to happen here is because the wood is not perfectly even, when it goes to cut 0.75, it might not cut all the way through, especially if your wood is warped for any reason. So for cup depth, what I like to do is I just like to add on another 0.05 in this case. So I'm going to go 0.8. For my tool, we're going to use a 1/4 inch upcut bit, 52/910. If it doesn't show up here, just click select and make sure that you find it in kind of the wood starter kit. Isn't really much else to change. If I click edit, I can change some of the speeds I want it to run at. We're going to keep everything default because it's nice and easy. So now moving down, I'm going to clear it in the middle, so I don't have to change anything there. I don't have to change anything here. I'm just going to call this now hole pocket, and I'm going to go ahead and calculate it. This should come up. Material thickness is 0.75, but you're cutting at 0.8. It will cut through into the base of the machine. That's fine because we're going to have a spoiler board down. So you can just go ahead and hit OK. Brings us to our wood piece. I'm just going to grab my slider over here on speed. I'm just going to move it around and play and make sure that it looks essentially what I want it to look at, which is actually, it looks great. Wonderful. So it created that hole pocket toolpath. I'm going to go ahead and click close. And then over here on the left-hand side from 3D view, I'm going to go back to 2D. And I'm going to create my next path. So I'm going to select this path right here. And again, some of the stuff that I'm showing in this video might not apply all of it to your piece that you're cutting. If you don't have pieces like this that you're cutting and you just need to cut the outside of something, you can just go to that portion of the video. So here's this piece, the little slider. I'm going to pocket this as well. So I'm going to click pocket. I want to make sure my start depth is 0, 0.8, same bit, fantastic. I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to say this is the angle pocket. Nothing else I have to change. I'm going to go ahead and hit calculate. I should get the same warning. I hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and play that. I'm just going to make sure that looks right. I might bring up the speed a little bit because it is a little bit bigger of a cut. And it looks good. Cleans up that whole cut right there. Okay, back to 2D view. Now, I want to cut this whole thing out. This would be a lot to pocket out, and we'd be sitting there for a very, very long time. So instead of pocketing all this material out, I am going to profile this. So I'm going to select profile. I'm going to make sure my start depth is 0. My cut depth is 0.8 again. I'm going to use the same bit, but now we have a machine vector. I want to cut the inside of this so it's not bigger than it should be. So I'm going to make sure I change my machine vector to inside. You can kind of see how it looks. That's outside, that's inside, that's right on the line. I'm going to do inside. And then over here, what we need to do is if we just cut this clear out, it's going to be a loose piece of wood, and that can be very dangerous, and we don't want that. So we're going to add some tabs. So it's going to cut the majority of it out, but it's going to leave little tabs that we'll cut out by hand. So I'm going to add tabs, 0.5 for the length and 0.125 for the thickness is fine. I'm going to select edit tabs, bring my cursor over, and you can see here it has a little cross and like a little spindle looking icon. What I will do is I am just going to, especially because this is kind of a smaller piece, I am going to just click on a line. You can see there it adds a tab. And where you add these is where it's going to go. So I'm going to tab here and here, maybe here and here to give it some rigidity. And I might add another one right here. So that means that this is going to cut out. It's going to leave those tabs, and then we will cut those out by hand. So I'm going to close that. Don't worry about any of this stuff. Nothing there to worry about. And then down here for profile, we're just going to call this the inside cut and calculate it. 0.7, 0.8, fantastic, hit OK. And now I'm just going to cut that. And you can see here at the end, it leaves those 5 tabs. That's the inside cut. So now close, 2D view, you can see I have 3 toolpaths already set up. And now my last one, I'm going to click on this edge, is going to be this outside cut. So I'm going to do another profile. This time I want to be to the outside, so I don't make it any smaller. Start depth, 0.8 there, same tool, that's fantastic. Make sure you change that to outside. I'm going to add some tabs again. I'm going to edit. And then for this one, we got a little bit longer sides. So I'm going to add 2 tabs. And then I might add a tab here in the middle of the arc and right here as well. That looks good. I'm going to close that. I'll change this name to outside cut. I'm going to calculate that, 0.75, 0.8. And I'll play that. Looks good. Now, pretty much when we're done cutting your piece, that is what it's going to look like on that board. You will take it and you will saw off these little tabs with a little saw that we have and maybe sand those areas, and you have got your piece cut out on the ShopBot ready to go. At this point, though, we do need to export these toolpaths. So instead of exporting the toolpaths and then giving it to your teacher, do call your teacher over, have them check your toolpaths. When they check each one and they say they're good to go, then we're going to select toolpaths. We're going to go up to save toolpath. And then our post processor here is going to be the ShopBot TC inch .shopbot. That's what we're going to use. And then we also want to output all visible toolpaths to one file. So it's going to cut each one of these. And we do want to make sure it's in the correct order. And that's how we did in the video. We did all of our inside stuff first, then we did our outside. We can then save the toolpath. And you're going to save this on a flash drive and then bring that over to your teacher, and we can set up the ShopBot and go. And there's your tutorial.